I'm Lisa Oakley, Director and Founder of People Associates, and I'm excited to be here recording HR Unlocked with Khush Sethi, Head of Culture and Talent at ClearPoint.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Great to be here.
Thanks for being here. Khush looks after people and culture across Australasia and the UK. Over 15 years, she's been driven by one goal: to understand people, what motivates them, what they value, how they thrive, and to use that understanding to build lasting human connections. Her world is talent, culture, and people strategy and the everyday decisions that shape how organisations actually feel to work in. We're going to get into it. Thank you so much, Khush. What is it like to be Head of Talent and Culture at ClearPoint?
Wow, that's an interesting question. How I define as it's like you've been handed over keys for a candy shop, right? But yes, not to have all the candies by yourself, but to ensure whoever walks in through those doors have a great experience and they get to pick the right candy of their choice that brings up and that lights up their face and have a beautiful smile. So I just personally find myself to be very lucky to have that important seat in the room and to experience, to shape how it feels like to be a ClearPointer or the experience around that. And that's how I just explain how it feels like to be a head of talent and culture.
That's a great explanation. Yeah, and you've got incredible founders, you've got an incredible culture, you've got an amazing organisational brand, employment value proposition and customer value proposition. I mean, surely all of that stuff doesn't happen overnight. You've got a pivotal role in making sure all that happens. What's kind of talent management as a function, given that that's a core part of what you lead?
100%. I just feel sometimes, and I just would like to help people understand that talent is just not only recruitment, it's the whole life cycle.
Yeah.
And it's how I put it, it's the slice of a pie, right? Mm-hmm. It's just so beautiful, and how we kind of live through at ClearPoint is just referring back to the ClearPoint values, right? It's essential. We've got 3 core values: respect and care for people, act with integrity, earn and nurture trust. As leaders, we kind of every day we walk in and we just believe that values are not only there to be painted on the walls or just go layer and layer in the website, right, that nobody looks at. This is something that we advocate. This is something that we advocate, that we bring in our values in day-to-day life and our decision-making, right? It's how we come up is how we behave, and that kind of helps in navigating from everything, the whole talent management life cycle, from attracting people to hiring people to onboarding to employee experience, and then sometimes we need to say goodbyes to them. So it kind of weaves into, and they are the guiding factor, they are the driving force for us, and they help us navigate into any decisions, because ClearPoint being a people-centric company, those values really is the driving force for ClearPoint in any decision making that I can say.
And I see that, having worked with ClearPoint for a number of years now, those values ring true in each of your decisions. I love what you said about talent management, and it's quite often we think about it in the context of the employee life cycle. I guess HR professionals, business owners, leaders, founders, managers can sometimes assume that talent management and recruitment, talent acquisition, sort of synonymous things. But what you're saying is that the concept is much, much broader than that. It is everything that we do to create a fantastic employee experience. It is their talent development is sort of a subset of that. Often we think about performance development and performance management, 2 sides of one coin, one being sort of below the line, one sort of being above the line. And I'm guessing that as part of ensuring that your talent is equipped with the skills necessary to face the demands of the future, the demands of your customers, to keep growing and to keep contributing, there's a huge program of work around making sure that they are skilled, right? Making sure that they've got the currency and that they're relevant for the future.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I think often the organizations, what they focus on, just the technical side of things, which I feel in this world of AI, as much as the technical skills are essential, but also at the same time, the human connections, the embracement of individuality and inclusiveness is something that we really need to focus on. And one of the things that I would like to bring in an example that often, me being today my 7-year work anniversary at ClearPoint, it's every time, and you just get the vibe. It's a very different experience being part of ClearPoint. And often I used to hear that whenever we are recruiting somebody, whatever we are doing, it's like, is that a ClearPoint Is that something that sounds like ClearPoint? And often I used to be like, everybody knows the definition, but it's hard to put in words. And what we did a leadership workshop around that. And that was fascinating. We did old school. We just handed over sticky notes, asked everybody to explain what it's like to be a ClearPointer for you. And everybody put that there, stick it on the whiteboard. Of course, we used AI after that, chucked that all in AI, helped us create themes. And what came out is the common themes across the leadership group. And that gave us the thinking like, clear, as leaders, we think alike, right? They were really clear common themes, and then we created ClearPoint Persona because that helps us now. That ClearPoint Persona is our go-to guide or Bible or whatever fancy way you want to put it.
Okay.
It kind of like gives you that authentic way of rather just saying that this person is right or not right. It's just something, a reference point for like new people coming on board or people like we are going through any professional development life cycle or career progression or anything for that matter. We have that reference guide to refer to, which could help like some of the things that we might need to nurture people, right? So that reference guide helps us to kind of navigate which are the things we need to promote our people. So it's not only the technical development, it's like the personality development and supporting them to have our arms around it, which really came up as a great win because to me as the person who was kind of ensuring and being part of and being honored to be part of like shaping this, and then when you see like all the leaders, they've got common things coming out like, and we built up the ClearPoint Persona, that was amazing.
Awesome. I love the concept. I love the idea. For the skeptics listening that are thinking, oh my gosh, is this all about uniformity? Is this all about making everyone fit this mold? You know, because I think there's absolutely benefits to understanding what works in your organization. But if you're a kind of a square peg and that mold is a round thing, how would you support those skeptics to understand that there's breadth or there's different dimensions or there's variability within that persona? Because surely it's not just a static, uniform, one size fits all kind of a thing.
100%, because it's some people. And we believe in playing with the strengths of the people because, again, we're not bringing in people to change them or mold them. It's not what ClearPoint is all about. ClearPoint is about if you bring in somebody, we are appreciating the fact that any individual decided to share their career journey with ClearPoint, right? And we need to be respectful around that. Yes, as the life goes, we need to support our people. And we kind of identify where is the individual's strength and then layer it out with, okay, these are the things we need to, because like we hire highly technical cream of the people in the market. That's what the ClearPoint reputation is with our clients. And that is what we look for. And we have a really good, thorough, very process-driven and very, inclusive interview process. So once we've been through that, we know that we made a great decision. And I'm pretty sure the people who come on board, they feel that proud moment that they're going to make contribution to it. So rather tweaking it, we'd rather go with where does their strength lies, and then factoring that in, and then kind of helping to use that and then also helping them where are the things that they would need further polishing on. And that's how we kind of go around it.
I love that. So persona is not about traits or characteristics or background per se. Persona, if I'm understanding what you're explaining, is more about principles, ways of working, mindset, attitudes, and even strengths. So that when somebody's in a role, because you're right, you only recruit really talented, really capable. Everyone that I've worked with at ClearPoint, I admire because they're technically capable, but they've got these amazing communication skills because you have to, right, in the nature of the work that you do. So I'm guessing that it's about how do we support this talent to excel and be the absolute best that they can be in that environment.
It's like you can hire the best talented people from the market, but you need to ensure they've been looked after well, right? That if you're going to just get the talented people come on board and then like, okay, we've done the job, let's take the hands off, they'll look after themselves. But no, it's the care. It's like ensuring they're happy. It's ensuring that their career needs what is the next step in their career? What is the next thing they want to do? Whether it's a promotion, it's like learning or whatever it feels like they want to move into, like from one role to another, like they are an engineer, they want to move in consulting, or whether they've got a different desires of like building up skills into any different area. Like respecting that, and then again playing back to the strengths, what they want to do. Yes, also professional services. We also need to be mindful that we are here for the clients, right? So yes, most of the times we try to balance this, and believe it or not, it does become sometimes difficult, but that is where the role of the leaders come in, right? You need to find that common ground, which keeps people happy, because if you need to have good retention, and that's why with ClearPoint, we don't mind if people leave, because we rather celebrate it. Because if somebody's leaving, they're going to go out there, pick up new skills, get more experience around different industries, and we've got pretty high return rate. We've got a great percentage of alumni coming back.
Boomerangs, yeah.
Absolutely. And it's so amazing. That brings the biggest joy in my life to look at as soon as any alumni we get in touch with, and they're like, we are keen to come back, right? So you're not only, it's not a loss. And I try to kind of, I would like to bring it forward that if somebody's leaving, they're not your enemy. Like, look at the bigger picture there. Let them go, expand their wings, learn new things, learn new industry, and then come back, and they will bring in those learnings and the values that they've learned during that time. So it's kind of a win-win for everybody.
I love that, because you actually, if I'm not mistaken, you invite alumni to events. And so people stay connected to your organisation, and their network stays connected to the organisation.
Yeah, and they are so, it's so much mana in there. We do alumni events wherein like people come in, and it's just the way to bring back those beautiful, nurtured memories that, and believe me or not, they had been, ClearPoint would be 19 years coming August, right? Beautiful, right? Kudos to Bain and Phil, amazing co-founders. They have developed this company, and one of the things they've managed to kind of continue and nourish in these 19 years is that culture. Yeah. It feels so real. And it is real and so different. And me working with multinationals and like different companies, like from 6,000 people to like X number of people. So it feels like when people say that we've got values, ClearPoint is the place that you really feel that values are something which are being looked at, referred to, and not just
forgotten. Rhetoric, not just rhetoric. Actually lived.
Exactly.
And
exactly.
I think what you're saying about feeling it is relevant, because you can walk into the building and feel it. I think it's very real. So I love your sayings. So one of your sayings is leaders set the weather. And you just talked about two fabulous founders. And I'm sure there are a number of other leaders in your organisation. And I think we have this responsibility or duty, call it obligation, weight sometimes, but also privilege as leaders to kind of set the weather. How have you seen that show up in your experiences, either ClearPoint or prior to that?
That is actually the code I came up with the real experience at ClearPoint.
Yes.
Because I was reading it somewhere. Exclusive is expensive, but inclusive is affordable. And I just feel this is something so deep and meaningful that people try to achieve, like let's be exclusive, be exclusive. But then exclusivity comes with its own cost. But something which is in our hands is like just inclusive, right? And it's as simple as that. Yes, leaders set the weather. It's like your morning coffee, right? If it's perfect, right temperature, milk frothed perfectly well, I add sugar in my coffee. So if the perfect amount of sugar I added, it just makes my day, right? If it makes my day, that means I turn up to my meetings with leaders or like my team. It's just a different vibe altogether. And that just carry on with my team. If my coffee is not right or anything, like it's just like, my morning it just reflect, it just carry on with how you react and how you talk. And that is kind of a little bit, and it also delves into one of the things which is and we encourage our leaders to do that, like the muscle memory to have the right emotional intelligence, because that kind of dives into, and for leaders, by the way, I think emotional intelligence is really, really important. When you're talking about people well-being, and again, referring back to the people that we recruit, we need to ensure that if we are hiring the good, capable people, they are being looked after. They can reach out to when they have a need. They can reach out to you if there's anything that has happened. They can tap into anyone as an open door policy. They feel comfortable. I would like to share an example. We ran this initiative, which was Wisdom Nuggets, Learnings for Life, right? And that was actually designed to, build that gap or kind of bring people closer, because that was lunch sessions ran by leaders, right? And it was nothing, no PowerPoint,
not
presentations.
Doesn't need to be flash.
Nothing
just needs
like
to be
fancy,
real.
right? But it was just like real, authentic experiences shared by the leaders.
Yeah.
And what it gave, like build a connection with the people, because everybody's busy, right? But then also bridge that gap of like, you can reach out to me. We've got open door policy. We are here to help you. We are here for you. But also at the same time that the leaders are the same people. There was a time in their lives that they started like with nothing. They had those, fallbacks, and how did they pick the breadcrumbs and kind of, got through it where they are today. So it's just the phase of life that you're in. But then it's everybody, all of us have been through that phase of life and kind of work through and navigate the goods and the bads and kind of took the learnings.
So much in there. I'm going to try and unpack it. So leaders set the weather, I love, and you use that analogy around your morning coffee as well. And I think you're right. We cast the shadow, and I think it's important to recognize that in terms of how you show up, emotional intelligence or regulation, all super important to helping create an environment where other people can flourish, right? Yes. I think that is absolutely key. And then you talked about the sessions, the workshops, and actually learning from wisdom nuggets. Okay, learning from lived experience, which I love because it brings people onto the same level, right? Yeah, helps them understand that somebody has walked in your shoes, and through discipline or hard work or consistency, they've got to where they've got to.
100%. That connection comes in quickly. Like if somebody were just going to say like, yeah, I was having a tough time riding a bike when I was growing up, which is so real. Like everybody growing up, we ride bikes and we would have our own, like somebody picks that up quickly, somebody don't. But then it's just leaders carry. And I always say that sometimes our job titles are scary. Right. So we need to as leaders, we need to walk up and close that scariness aside. And these are the sessions. This is just an example. There would be heaps of other things that companies can do and organization and ClearPoint does. It's just to create that openness of people having that comfort, like, oh, they're no different.
Well, it's an opportunity for connection, because you were talking about AI earlier, and I'm sure that's a big thing in your world and technology consultancy, and you're talking about the importance of connection and leaning into that. And we've got this art, and we don't want to lose it. We don't want to lose this art of connection. So creating space or moments to be able to support that, whether it's peer-to-peer, whether it's, supporting, subordinate relationships or top-down, it's important, right, to create connection. So
I think that's going to be even more essential, if I can say that. And I was just having a chat before this. Like earlier, in the world of AI, it used to be when you're doing recruitment, when you're talking to somebody, it's just straight away your thinking changes to how well technically the person is capable, right? The personality and all of those things used to follow down the line. It's going to change because AI has got so much potential in there. The dial and the human connection is going to take the priority. Whether you talk about recruitment or anything else, it's going to take the priority, because now people would be assessed how well they are in building, how well they turn up, right? How well they are in building human connections, right?
I was going to ask you about this, because you've written that AI has made talent and culture more human, not less human, which I think is a really beautiful thought. So what does that mean on the day-to-day basis? You've used the example of recruitment. Are there other things?
Yes. So to be honest, we are literally using it. We're using Claude Cowork, and I've been started calling, I think that's talent team's middle name now, because anything that we do, it is every now, and we are learning as we go, right? Like everybody else, we are learning as we go. But yes, it is so fascinating to see in my world, because my role is not only limited to recruitment, it's like the HR compliance bit, and also the internal event side of things. But then I think from the team perspective, it's like you remember the time that we had to write the job descriptions? You remember the time we had to type in the job adverts? You remember the time when we used to screen candidates? Like it was yesterday. Person sitting in front of you, and 80% of the times I'm busy writing notes. Right? It's still, and that eye-to-eye contact used to be so difficult, or even walking out of the room. It's for me was like, okay, let me get back to my desk quickly. Forget about anything else, right? Or if there's there's a chit chat happening. Let's forget that because I'm going to forget.
Yeah,
what
I need to write that candidate summary right now, whereas you don't have that pressure.
Exactly. And if you've got terrible handwriting like me, you would like to get it down pretty quickly, like before you yourself can't read it. So, and now, fast forward, you've got AI taking notes, creating beautiful summaries, going in straight to your AD system or HRIS system. What are you doing? Job descriptions, which used to be a pain and taking so much time that you can go and have some meaningful, valuable discussions with line managers or candidates. You just, that pile of administration is being taken kind of through the AI path, and you can use that time to have meaningful, like really meaty conversations that you can enjoy and kind of create that relationship side of things, which we are really embracing.
So what makes a great candidate experience now, just flipping the coin, especially in a market where candidates expect speed and they expect personalization? I can imagine I do a lot of things. I don't do a huge amount of recruitment because I find trying to navigate employer expectations and candidate expectations really difficult. You're always looking for a unicorn and you find the right one and the candidate says, oh, that company's not for me or whatever it might be. It's just so disheartening. So what you do is really quite special. How do you navigate great candidate experience in this changing environment?
Now that had been always close to my heart, like ever since I got into this industry, because yes, AI is now making it true, real and possible, if I can say that. That had been always the thing. Like I personally, and I think at ClearPoint, we personally value anybody. Doesn't matter if they end up getting the job or not.
True. Yeah.
They have put their time and energy in the most difficult time, potentially, I would say. If somebody's looking out for a job, there could be multiple reasons. In that mindset, the person is ensuring they're updating their CVs, they're applying, going through multiple job sites and applying, and we just need to respect that, right? We just need to be mindful. And now, when I said that AI is making it possible is because earlier they used to be like, and there had been time that we used to go back with auto rejection, right? Because we went through the CV, auto rejection. But then if I just say now, because we didn't have the bandwidth to go back to each one of them, where now AI is making that possible to provide that personal, follow-up call, probably, which we were so time pressed earlier that we felt that automated rejection email would be the right way to do. But now, with all the administration layers going, and we've got the time and energy to spend, and just spend it wisely.
And I think that reflects what you were saying earlier about being a, I suppose, responsible organisation and a wider ecosystem. It's not just about your current workforce, it's about your prospective workforce, it's about the workforce of the future, which may include people that have worked with you previously. So I think that's a beautiful way of approaching it. Where should AI not replace human judgment in recruitment or HR? So obviously it would be quite easy just to rely on AI for everything.
Yeah. I think what AI cannot do is to get that vibe of nerves getting in, to get the vibe of like, yes, AI can read CVs, can review, take notes, but then what AI that I feel that humans would still be needed is to understand that if you're doing a recruitment, to understand, just try to get the feeling of what is the actual reason they're looking for a job, what they can help you, what they're looking forward.
Getting behind the information on the page.
Getting that layers of information out by having these conversations, because in the CV, you can just do 2 pages, 3 pages, 4 pages max, because I know some organizations do worry about it. And I know different companies operate differently, but then those layers of information, you can't put everything on the CV, and neither you should do it, right? This is where the human intervention is required, that you jump on a call or you meet the person like for a coffee and you just try to navigate what their real aspirations are.
And that instinct, that AI can't replace that instinct.
And see, AI cannot check the vibe, right? Like often you walk into a room and it's just like, you just get that positivity, right? There is something humans are born with, right? That AI would not be able to sense check.
Okay.
That is where the humans would still be required. Like candidate experience, I would say that it's not only about going back and rejecting somebody. It's like keeping them updated, what's happening. That call would be so valuable, even if you're delivering the bad news. even if you're delivering any news like, oh, the role has been put on hold, I'm pretty sure as a human being, they would like to receive a call rather just copy-pasted text message or an email,
or
right?
An AI-generated
That's where,
memo.
AI generated, and AI can easily do that, right?
Okay, you have covered so much ground already, but I know that you have these sort of thoughts or focus areas to help guide our discussion today. So we've talked about leaders setting the weather. What about taking people on the journey? It's all very well for an organisation or a leader to have a kind of sense of direction, I suppose. How do they get everybody working according to that same direction? What's your thoughts on it?
I feel keeping it open, don't assume people are mind readers.
Yeah.
That is often, I feel, when things go wrong. I've got a thing in my head, right? I wish we had mind reading. I would love to have that skill.
Or not,
believe
maybe
me
not.
or not.
Yeah.
Right? I might select what I want to read.
Yeah.
But then, honestly, coming back to real life,
Yeah.
people are not mind readers.
Yeah.
Clear and open communication is essential. That would help you in multiple ways possible. I do know in corporate time, sometimes time is not in your favor.
Yes.
The deliverables are not in your favor. But I think as leaders, I just feel if you want to make up time for something, you will be able to make time. You will find time, right? You'll do it today or you'll do it tomorrow. You'll do your priority settings because I know leaders at least, they should be good at priority settings, right? And then that is the essential thing. If you think that there's something which we need to keep the whole company involved, and I would like to bring in an example. It's just, I can't get over with that. It was back in the COVID time. Like I said, ClearPoint has values, and as a company, we were thinking like how we're progressing, and it's time to co-create our values, right? We didn't want to change it. We wanted to co-create it, right? And this is how we brought the company in the journey. It could have been easily just decided in a closed room by the core leadership team and circulated in a town hall or like a group email, right? We did an exercise, and the fascinating part because it was done at the COVID time and it was online.
Yeah.
What we did, everybody needs to come. We did all the description, why we are doing it and all of that. And we asked everybody to bring in a proud moment story, right? Oh my God. It was so beautiful, irrespective of not being in person, irrespective of like doing it in front of a screen. But then we just got flooded and people sharing those proud moment stories. And it was just like, we just came up with that theme and it was like easy piece of cake. Like we just shared what we want to do. Share with us what you feel about it. And it was a clear no-brainer how we ended up co-creating the values for us. Like, I just cannot believe if that would have been any other better way of doing it.
What a beautiful example. So people brought their individual experiences of work, their proud moments. They might have had a symbol or an artifact or a recollection.
At ClearPoint, yes.
At ClearPoint. And then you were able to use that to define, I suppose, how those values are lived and breathed, which I think is phenomenal. That's incredible. Okay. And you did it virtually. Okay.
And we did it virtually, which is now, if I feel like, was it real?
Yeah.
But it was indeed real. And initially, yes, we had our own, like, as anything, like company-wide that you're trying to do, right? Would it land well? Would it not land well? Whatever, like there are just minimum stories. Although in back of our minds, we know, right? This is ClearPoint, which is going on, coming, like I said, 19 years. But then there's a fear still. There are butterflies in your belly. And then like, boom. We are having that session, went over time, but then people are like just showering through their proud moments. It was beautiful. It was beautiful.
Fantastic. No, really, really good example of how to take people on the journey. What about pausing before you respond? So I guess leadership as a practice, leadership as a discipline, leadership done well in your organisation, which I know it is, can be about waiting, I suppose, for the time to give the right response or considering the information first. How do you kind of balance the pace of what's going on and needing to kind of pause and reflect?
I heard this term quite recently, and it just quickly resonated to how we feel about it at ClearPoint. It's like being kind, not nice.
Okay.
And that is one of the learnings for me as well.
I love this. Differentiate between kind and nice for me.
Exactly. And that was an eye-opener because if there is something, because we work with people, right?
Yes.
It's not glorified all the time,
Sometimes
right?
it's difficult.
There are some times, but then as a company, as an organization, it's our responsibility if like somebody is part of the company, if there's something not going how it should be going, rather than just being nice and like be like, no, if I'm going to say it, going to hurt the feelings and this and that. You're just being nice. You're trying to push the can down the road.
Yeah,
right?
that's not truthful
right?
or even honest. Or
exactly. And you're not helping, right? Kind is being that constructive feedback that you really want, you really mean the person to kind of work through it and get better, right? It's like having those hard conversations, but kind way, right? You really believe in the person. You really want them to flourish. That's why you don't expect them to do mind reading. You don't always expect them to be self-aware. You're helping them. You're supporting them. And as leaders, we just need to be equipped with the right information delivered in the right way. And that's how I define being kind and not nice.
Okay, so communication is the glue, is the key to doing that well. And it's about delivering tough messages in a considerate, respectful way. Not necessarily just fluffing around the edges because that's nice. That's often not kind. That's cruel. You know what I mean? People need that kind of clarity. And so you're seeing that. Very, very good. Okay. Well, you've said that not everything's perfect and sometimes we get it wrong. How do we kind of let go of this need for perfection? I'm sure in professional services, you want to be perfect every time. I'm sure the customer's experience of you is perfect every time, and that's what we want. But how do we navigate that? I'm a recovering perfectionist, by the way. I kind of learned that at a point in time, perfection starts to work against me. It impacts my overall effectiveness. I'd love everything to be perfect, but it's not, and that's okay. So I've had to kind of be okay with it. But how does that work at an organisation like ClearPoint?
I'll share, and Bain, if you're gonna listen to this podcast, I'm stealing yours. Let's not fear to get things wrong.
Okay,
there would be things that would go wrong, right? Yeah. Let's be realistic.
Don't plan for it to go wrong, but accept when it does.
Let's be realistic.
Yeah.
Yes, if you're doing 1,000 things, there would be one thing out of it which is not going to go as per plan. Yeah. And as leaders, we need to be prepared for it because, let's be honest, when things go wrong is the best opportunity to learn, right? And get the best out of it. What made it go wrong? Because that would bring in the further learnings, right, for the next time. So I think we need to stop thinking that everything every time needs to go right? We just need to be open with, yes, with all good intentions, what we can understand, what we can realize is something this is perfectly designed and going to deliver perfectly. But if those curvy moments happen, we need to be prepared to pick the breadcrumbs and then put it together and then do a bit of a retro afterwards to have the learnings out of that, what didn't go right.
It sounds so simple, but businesses don't do it, especially with the pace of change. They'll sort of bounce, I think, from not a failure, but a project, say, for example, where there could have been things done differently. Like you say, pick the breadcrumbs up and do a retro. They just move from one thing to the next thing, to the next thing, to the next thing. It doesn't give that opportunity for reflection. I heard a statement or phrase that we actually don't learn by doing, we learn by reflecting on what we've done, or sort of how we've gone about doing the doing. I think one thing that's inspirational about ClearPoint is that you do take time to have those discussions. And I have seen it in my experience, working together with other parts of the organisation. Often it's not just within one division or one team, but it's cross-functional, right? So you're sort of saying, how could we have done this differently? How can we learn from this experience and change the way we do it in the future?
Absolutely. And I find ourselves lucky because being in professional service organisation, we get to have the opportunity to work with different industries, right? Different flavor profiles, different kind of deliverables that you do with the clients. And then when it does happen that things didn't go with nobody's real intentions to make it go bad, but then if it does go not in the direction of travel that we wanted to take, but yes, often, and I think I've seen it most of the times, like leaders come together and kind of, okay, what went wrong, why it went wrong, what we could have done better. Yes, and again, one of those things that we need to make up time for that.
And it's a maturity as well, because it's not about blame. I think some organisations do the retro thing, but they do it with a view to attributing blame.
A blame game.
And I think people fear then contributing, really this happened or it could have shown up differently here. Whereas I think if it's not about blame, if it's about learning, then you get a more generous, open approach to the whole thing.
Absolutely. Can't agree with you much there.
What else can you tell us, Khush, about people, AI, your role, how ClearPoint is fabulous? We've covered a lot of ground. Anything else that you wanted to cover today?
I think one message that I would like to leave with people, there had been one time, I think, in my career, like somebody came quite hard at me, right? And it was a moment like anybody, like froze situation, but
like
at the same time my head,
intensity.
It was quite intense in my career, if I can say that. And this is the first time I'm sharing it, but then there was, and I just felt like going with the mana and the patience and the realistic, because I do carry the important responsibility of being the head of talent and culture at ClearPoint. So I had to be.
Your role modeling.
Exactly. And I remember in that moment, I didn't feel like matching the energy. And what I ended up doing is I asked, like, do you need a glass of water?
Yeah,
right? Yeah. And all got sorted, but then I kept thinking about it. That was a bit of a learning for me, but I think the reflection was something that a leader told me a long time ago, which I never thought that I would ever have to use that learning. But it just happened that whatever happens in the moment of time, right? If somebody going to talk about it or anybody going to talk about it, nobody going to bother what the other person said. People are going to put the helicopter view on how you responded. And I just feel there was such a beautiful learning given to me probably a decade ago, which I never thought that I would ever have to use.
Okay.
And there was the perfect moment.
So it came to mind in that moment.
Exactly.
Yeah. And you were able to be composed, I suppose, respond in a way that was respectful and considerate in spite of whatever your experience of that interaction was.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that's interesting or useful to the rest of us, because quite often people get emotional. Quite often things get intense.
Or you match the energy of the other person.
And you match the energy. This is it. You can sort of rise and thrash it out, and then it's not helpful. Yeah. Really, it doesn't, like you said, it doesn't really matter what was said then. You've just kind of contributed to the angst. Yeah. So if leaders can take heart from what you've suggested and kind of dial something down or just maintain their composure, it will all get sorted in the end. But it's about how you show up in those critical moments, isn't it?
Exactly. It's like not taking things personally, because you don't know if the person is turning up that way or not being themselves and reacting to be a totally different person. There could be a number of things happening in their lives, right? Yeah. So you need to allow them, and sometimes you need to let the person just take it all out, right? And be the big person in the room just to help and support them. And it's not about a winning competition there, right? Yeah. As a leader, you need to behave like one, right?
Even if people around you are not living up to perhaps what they would like to be living up to in the moment, that requires huge grace, huge maturity, and trust. Generous intent is a key sort of functional part of trust. Like you say, you're putting yourself in their shoes going, okay, they're fired up about something for whatever reason, and there's other stuff going on for them. Yeah. I'm not going to match that energy. I'm going to, try and help them in that moment, which you obviously did. Yeah. Beautiful, beautiful reflection. Anything else that we can learn from you? I feel like there's so much that we can learn from you. So much, infinite wisdom. Yeah.
No, it's beautiful. I think often people in professionals in the people in culture or recruitment or this kind of a life cycle of, are often get mistaken that what is their job, right?
Yeah. What do we do?
And
what are we supposed to be doing?
What do you do in the room for like 1 hour? What were you doing? And I'm like, recruitment? Oh, I can do it like that. Yeah. And I often now, and it's like, come join. Okay. And you'll get to know.
Yes.
First-hand experience. Like, see it. I can, like, it's easy to say without knowing how much effort, how much thinking, how you play it out, whatever you're dealing with, how you play it out with both the sides, to just think through. You're not thinking about yourself. You're thinking about the individual. You're thinking about the organization, right? And you're just trying to make it work in the right possible way with the mana and the wisdom. Right. So it's just, I think it's good to understand that there's a lot goes in there. I'm not saying picking up technical skills is easy, right? I'm not saying that, but also this is a totally different ballgame of understanding
some
human.
Appreciation for the profession.
Exactly.
In my experience at internal roles, I would be in back-to-back meetings all day, every day. And to be honest, some days I am consulting as well, but I would be in back-to-back meetings. It's quite intense. You're switching context. You've got people in front of you that are expecting something from you every minute. And then you kind of get to your to-do list or your emails at 6 p.m., or after that. So yeah, I think I understand what you're saying. Have some appreciation for the nature of the role, the output, particularly when a lot of it is unseen. And that's why a lot of what we wanted to do with this podcast is helping HR professionals and business owners, leaders, managers, founders, all the rest of it, learn from other leaders, because there's a lot that, we don't go, woohoo, we just did a restructure, or woohoo, we just did a, exit, or, you just don't talk about those things.
Absolutely. So and we can't,
that goes under the radar.
Exactly. The confidentiality piece in there, which is pretty major. Like, even if you just walked out of a room there and there had been a hard conversation you come out because somebody walks up to you and is like, hey, how's your day going? Perfect.
Right? Fabulous day.
Probably the person back in the room would be like, really? But then and there's what, how we need to keep switching the emotions and the expressions, because you can't be just because also at the same time, you are showcasing in an internal role, whatever happens in the room, you come out because you can't share, but at the same time, the others who are around you, you're chit-chatting. You don't want to kill the vibe.
No.
Right?
Gosh, HR could kill the vibe in a number of discussions, couldn't we? But we don't want to be that person.
Exactly.
So, yeah, okay. Anything else that you want to share with us? I feel like I could keep asking you questions all day, but anything else that you think would be really useful to our listeners?
Well, it's been great. And I feel for young professionals, 100%. It's a beautiful industry to be a part of. Yeah. I've been, 15 years. I kind of rounded that up so that people can't guess my age. But yes, I think it's a beautiful, beautiful profession. If you're really passionate about people, connections, just the lovely, great time. Not all the time it's a great time, but yes, sometimes it's harder discussions and all of that stuff, but it all pays off.
And it's an opportunity to have an impact. Yeah.
Exactly. And I think it's a great profession to be a part of. And definitely with AI being in place, it's just creating that further potential of you really being in the moment, connecting and not just buried under the administrative tasks. So absolutely kudos to all the young professionals who are planning or thinking to be in the profession. Absolutely go for it.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Khush. Appreciate your contribution, your generosity, your warmth, your enthusiasm, your inspiration to us all. And I'm sure we'll see you again.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa, for having me.
Pleasure. Thanks.
Thank you.